and 10 others are reported missing. Let me try to answer some questions for you right off the bat. First, how did we get here on this Saturday morning into afternoon? The same storm system that produced the catastrophic flooding along the Guadalupe River. It eased up last night, but then in the overnight hours flared up again. Slow-moving, stalled storms producing at least 1 foot of rain, 1.5 feet in some locations, right over Travis, Burnett, and Williamson counties earlier this morning. That's when a flood emergency was issued, and the flooding quickly developed and got severe. Then we got all the way to this afternoon, and we still have slow-moving downpours that are producing prolific tropical rain totals. Let me show you some of those rainfall totals. This is the last 24 hours, most of this falling since midnight this morning. An unbelievable amount of water coming down in just hours up here. Northwestern Travis County on the top of Lake Travis, western Williamson County, southeastern Burnett County. 16 inches by one LCRA rainfall gauge. That is about half a year's worth of rain that fell in just hours. So no surprise the flooding was significant. That 10 to 20 inches had to go somewhere. Some of it, and a lot of it, I should say, has gone down the San Gabriel River. There's a South Fork and a North Fork of the San Gabriel River. The South Fork is what goes right through Georgetown, Liberty Hill, Leander, all the way back into the eastern side of Burnett County. Right now, we finally got the flood gauge in Georgetown back online. It reported somewhere around 33 feet of a crest. Could have been higher than that because it was already coming down when that gauge came back online. That is 6 feet to 7 feet into the major flood category. It has since crested, but is now coming down, but that water has been charging through Georgetown with evacuations of some apartment buildings along the San Gabriel River. Some roads closed as well, and at least one RV park evacuated. This is all eventually going to snake its way down towards Granger Lake, which has some room to store some of this water, but eventually if it has to release it, it'll go into Milam County. There was another part of this flooding. The 10 to 20 inches didn't all go into San Gabriel River. A lot of it came down some of the creeks and streams that are typically dry or barely flowing right into the Lake Travis system on the east side of Lake Marble Falls and then directly into Lake Travis, some of it. We have learned that numerous roads and numerous bridges have been destroyed, and this is likely where some loss of life happened earlier this morning. Again, Travis County officials confirming 2 are dead. Perhaps in just Travis County, we can't confirm exactly where those lives were lost, but it was likely in this area as numerous roads and bridges were destroyed. Unfortunately, it is still raining here. Before I run out of time, I want to give you a quick play-by-play of what's going on right now and where we go into the future. This is a flood emergency which has been extended until 4 p.m. for Burnett County, western Williamson, northwest Travis County. It is still raining heavily in here. We are talking about 18-inch rainfall totals over the course of this event, and it's still climbing. We have a flood warning as well extended for Austin and Williamson County. This goes until 4 p.m. as well. Thankfully, the rainfall rates are tapering off here, and so far we've been able to handle that water without much issue. Additional flood warnings down here south of our viewing area, with the exception of Luling, they continue as well. This is all a part of the same tropical system that has been with us for days now, a compact area of low pressure left over from Tropical Storm Barry, which made landfall all the way back 6 days ago now, and has spent the week, I should say, going through the Rio Grande and back into central Texas, and here it is sitting and spinning, leading to slow-moving, stalling, training tropical downpours. This has been a devastating event, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, deadly not only for us, but also along the Guadalupe River. We're going to stay apprised of the situation, and momentarily we'll get you an update on where we go from here and just how long this flood event could continue to last. Coming up.
Yeah, we are waiting on Governor Greg Abbott, who is expected to hold a press conference here shortly, beginning at 2 p.m. Now, we're expecting to possibly hear about the rescue and recovery efforts in Kerr County, Kerrville, and Hunt, Texas. You might remember we were talking a lot about Camp Mystic yesterday, the situation there, a lot of the girls who were rescued out of the camp. This morning, authorities confirmed 27 dead and many more missing. This is the total in Kerr County only, and as this fast developing situation changes across central Texas, these numbers could fluctuate as we include anyone in any other counties, including here in Travis County, as you just heard from Avery. CBS Austin's Abigail Velez right now is live in Georgetown, where the San Gabriel River, the South Fork, as Avery just mentioned, has crested. However, this has caused some evacuations. Abigail, what are you seeing out there now?
Well, right now we know that the San Gabriel River is rising at an alarming rate. Like Avery said, we're seeing some slowdown, but a flash flood warning is still in place until 3 p.m. So we're definitely not standing guard quite yet. I want you to look at the North Austin Avenue Bridge right now. This is what is considered the artery, the heart of Georgetown. You can see that there's a lot of debris pouring out of that bridge. Under, you can see that renovations were actually underway and construction was happening on this bridge, and it has since been washed away by the rising floodwater here at the San Gabriel River. Like you said, Adela, we know that evacuations have been underway throughout the day for people living along the river. That includes apartment complexes, businesses, and as I had mentioned earlier, this is really a popular spot of Georgetown where a lot of people frequent. We know that this is a holiday weekend, so there was quite a bit of people that were here in the area earlier today. We know that some people have since exited because of that evacuation order. A lot of people are taking heed and listening to officials. It's not mandatory, but it's suggested, and with everything that's happening in that devastating catastrophic flood in the Texas Hill Country, people are really listening to that advice. We saw a lot of onlookers earlier today. I know my photographers zooming into a group of people that are looking at this river level rising. They're here because a lot of people tell me that this is quite historic. They say we can't remember a time where the river got this high. We've never seen anything like this before, and they've been living here for upwards of 30 years. People who are visiting from Austin, Houston, or Dallas say we didn't expect this to happen in Georgetown. It really crept up on them. But officials say that they'd rather be safe than sorry. We know that a disaster declaration is in place. Williamson County Judge Stephen Snell signed that a few hours ago. This is so he can get local, state, and even federal resources to help with this flooding here in Georgetown. I'm going to speak to Williamson County officials in just a few minutes and get some updates. We are grateful to report that no injuries have been reported out of this, but we do know that several businesses have been evacuated, including the Georgetown Animal Shelter. We know that several animals have been displaced, and possibly one of the more frightening sights that we've seen today is actually wildlife get swept up in the San Gabriel River because of this floodwater. So again, that's disheartening, but we're really grateful to know that no injuries have been reported. We've seen a lot of law enforcement and first responders here on standby, ready to conduct search and rescue missions if necessary. A lot of the pedestrian walkways have since been submerged in water, so it's quite impossible for pedestrians to actually walk in this area. But some are getting quite close. They're taking pictures and they're calling their friends and family, notifying them of what's happening in Georgetown today. And law enforcement seems like they're being quite lenient. They're allowing people to do so at a safe distance, but when they get too close, they ask them to back off. Because this floodwater is rushing by, it's creating waves that can sometimes crash up to areas like one that we're in right now, and that's when law enforcement says you have to back up a few feet. But other than that, we do have a few more onlookers. A lot of people in the nearby apartments have since evacuated to safe shelters. We have a list of those shelters online, but again, this is an active situation. This is a fluid situation. We know that this flash flood warning lasts for at least another 2 hours, and for that reason, we can see that river level rise again. For now, like Avery said, and like I can tell you and my firsthand witness, it's lowering quite a bit, and that is good news for a lot of the people here visiting or residents, because of course they don't want to see damage to their infrastructure. Unfortunately, we have absolutely seen businesses and some buildings underwater and submerged, but again, no reports on injuries, and we're really grateful for that. I'm going to pass it over to CBS Austin's Emily Miranda, who is live in Austin at Shoal Creek right now. I know she has some updates in Austin that are unfortunately not looking good. Emily, what updates do you have for us right now?
Yeah, Abigail, right now we do know that there are several roads in the area that are closed due to flooding, and we're working on getting over there right after this hit. But I want to give you a look at what we're seeing right now just along Shoal Creek. As you can see, that the creek has gone down a little bit, but when we first got out here, if we zoom in just a little bit, you can see all the mud that was just water up on this sidewalk right here. This sign right over here, pretty much non-existent when we first got out here. So apologies for that. Let's give you a better look outside. That sign that I was just talking about right there, pretty much covered with water when we first got out here. Seeing all the mud on this sidewalk right here, completely, you could not see this area. And if we zoom in a little further, you can just see how rapidly Shoal Creek is flowing right now. Now, as I mentioned, it has receded a little bit since we've been out here, but this is still a dangerous situation, especially since we've seen quite a few people coming out here and trying to get a closer look at this, which officials are advising probably not the best idea. Please stay away from these areas, because as this water is moving so fast, this can cause potential for you to get swept away. So please, I know this may seem like an interesting situation, you may want to come out and look at it, but please stay home if you can. Also, since we've been out here, we've just seen a lot of water accumulating on the roads, which a lot of people are out driving right now. It's obviously a holiday weekend. People want to still get out, but please, if you don't need to go out, please stay home because a lot of that water is accumulating. It's getting harder to drive in. Now, we're staying along the Shoal Creek right now, but I remember at the last time we had the last major storm, a lot of people in this area, the flooding was backing up right to their houses. So we're going to head up to some of those neighborhoods right now and just try to talk to people, see if they saw something similar today, and hopefully that is not the case this time around. But of course, we're still getting a look out here right now, and we'll keep you updated with what they're saying for the time being. But for now, I'll send it back to the studio. So reporting in Central Austin, Emily Miranda, CBS Austin News.
All right, thank you, Emily. Let's take a look at some of the social media in the area. This is a situation where social media can be life-saving. Now, at 2 a.m., Austin Travis County EMS, they posted about a water rescue in the Sandy Creek neighborhood. This was northwest Travis County, which was perhaps some of the first of Travis County to get hammered by all of this rain. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next post. This Austin Travis County EMS post, by the way, was on X, I believe. Again, social media, really crucial here. This is Betty Cross, who we're going to be talking to in just a moment, taking a look at posting some of the video that she's seeing. A creek in northwest Travis County feeds directly into Lake Travis. I did talk to a friend of mine who is along Lake Travis right now, and he says the water has risen astronomically there, and you can see perhaps part of the reason why. CBS Austin, of course, keeping you up to date on social media, as well as our crew members are posting what they're seeing. We have full team coverage happening. Let's go ahead and go to Betty. In fact, Betty, we can see that you've certainly been out there braving the elements. That rain still coming down. What can you tell me right now?
Well, the rain is still coming down very heavy this afternoon in northwest Travis County, which is where we are. We're specifically in Jonestown, which is close to Cedar Park and Leander up there in northwest Travis County. And we are on a creek that I want to show you right now that feeds directly into Lake Travis. And you can see how fast this water is rushing. But as bad as this is right now, because normally this is just a trickle during the drought, they said earlier this morning around 4 a.m., well, you can see looking up at the trees on the other side of that bank just how high the water got. And that's how destructive it was. One house that's right on the shore of this creek, it was swept about 3 feet off of its foundation. The woman's car who we talked to, it was swept downstream. She hasn't been able to find it. And we did find one of their motorcycles. It was at least 200 yards down from the house. So that was the power of this creek about 4 or 5 this morning. And even now, they say, looking at this, it is just nothing like what this really very docile creek is normally. And people downstream from here who we talked to earlier this morning, they told us that at least 4 docks were washed away. One woman just texted me a little while ago, and she said they finally found their dock about half a mile down from their house, just sitting there in the water. Of course, they don't know if they'll be able to salvage it or if that's just going to be a total loss. But the woman just upstream from here, she told us that her home that went off of its foundation about 3 feet by the force of the water, she said it's going to be a total loss. The same woman who I said lost her car, they also lost one of their motorcycles. They are just very lucky that there were no injuries and no one was killed. Because she said, of course, with this happening at 4 in the morning, they were all asleep. 4 kids, 4 dogs. Of course, mom and dad, they were all asleep. And it was only because someone who came to check on their business at Texas Paintball saw what was happening, and he went running to the houses in this area, knocking on windows and doors, waking everyone up, getting them out of here. And when they finally did leave their homes, they said water was waist deep. So they said if he hadn't woken them up, they really feel like they might have died in their homes, and they really consider him a hero. We also talked to him, and we'll be bringing you that later as well. But so many stories of heroes who saved people's lives, other people thinking they weren't going to make it out alive, and now with more rain coming down, with the creek still rushing, they are so worried about what might be coming in the coming hours unless this rain stops. Now, of course, we'll be out here and we'll be bringing you updates all throughout the afternoon and this evening. But for now, this is Betty Crush reporting live in Jonestown in northwest Travis County.
And this is an absolute nightmare situation where some of these flash floods have been coming up in the middle of the night or early in the morning when people are asleep. Let's take a look at Avery Tomasco's most recent social media post. Some of that water in Georgetown. Look how high the San Gabriel River had gotten. It has crested and hopefully is receding. Avery, let's go to you. Let's go ahead and take a look at radar. Betty talked about that rain. It's incredibly dangerous out there because we've got water over the road. People just trying to stay safe at this point and hopefully keep their home safe as well.
Yeah, and a reminder that where Betty Cross is in much of northwestern Travis over to Burnett and Williamson counties, 1.5 feet of rain came down around and before sunrise. And it's coming down again, just as heavily, if not even heavier in some pockets. So no surprise that there's going to be additional flooding. The waterways looking like the perspective that Betty Cross just gave us when you're still putting inches of rain on top of 1.5 feet of rain in just the last 18 hours or so. This has been an unbelievable flood event for central Texas over towards the hill country. This isn't even including, we haven't even really talked about it yet, the Guadalupe River flood that just ransacked parts of Kerr County yesterday. In this area, this is the flood emergency that was issued earlier this morning. It is still in effect. Northwest Travis County, Jonestown included in this. So is Lago Vista. You're right on the edge of it. It will go all the way until 4 p.m. The normal turnaround, don't drown, we tell you. Obviously, please don't do anything that gets you into high water. But at this rate, just stay home. And even in that case, if you're at home and you're near a waterway, you may have to leave home to get to higher water. The rain coming down here is producing at least 1 to 3 inches of additional rain accumulation. The good news I have for you is that along I-35 from Georgetown all the way down to southwest Austin, the rainfall rates were heavy here, and we did see some flooding on creeks and streams that run through Austin and North Austin, but this rainfall rate is tapering down quickly. Great news, but we are going to have to watch what's happening up here in case it does try to move slowly towards the south back into parts of the city. There is a big swirl. You don't need to be a meteorologist to point this out on the radar. This is the leftover low, leftover from a tropical storm that made landfall last Sunday in the Mexico eastern coastline. The good news is that this is some of your first heavy rain east of I-35 that you've seen of this entire event. No warnings over there because you still have a lot of room in the soil to soak up this water, but we're going to have to watch all of central Texas through the next at least 6 hours for additional pockets of heavy rain and flooding. Here's some of our latest computer model data. I know a lot of you just want to know, when is this all finally going to end? We have probably a rough end time in this data I'm sharing with you now, but through the next couple of hours, still see this swirl here and some pockets of extremely heavy rain that may sit in one area and drop 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in a short period of time. Still raining in many areas on either side of I-35 through late this evening. Look at this though, after sunset and closing in on midnight. If we're lucky, we're wrapping up this flood event. There could still be some pockets of heavy rain somewhere along and west of I-35 all the way into Sunday afternoon, but it's not going to be anything like we have seen in the last 36 hours. Additional rainfall totals, this is probably underdoing it from the computer model I just showed you. There will be some pockets where multiple inches of rain could accumulate, and we could easily see some additional flash flooding. That's why we have a flash flood watch that remains in effect until 7 p.m. tonight at least. Wouldn't surprise me if they extended this just because of how bad the flooding has been today, and it's going to take a long time for some of that flood water to fully move downstream into the creeks, streams, and rivers that take them into their reservoirs. On that note, let's talk about if there is any good news to find in the deadly flooding we've seen, the elevation gain on Lake Travis. Friendly reminder, Lake Travis has been dropping almost constantly at a steady pace since 2020. That has ended. In the last 24 hours, frankly, just the last 12 hours or so, we've seen a 13-foot increase rapidly of the Lake Travis area. Most of this coming down through the floodgates at Starkey Dam, which sits between Lake Marble Falls and Lake Travis. On that note, there has been some bad flooding on Lake Marble Falls and Lake LBJ as well. We know of some boats and some docks that have been washed downstream. But this water is all being caught by the flood storage reservoir we call Lake Travis. This is our flood storage system, our flood management system, working as it should. When biblical floods happen like this, it all gets caught by our waterways, specifically Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan. Lake Travis continues to climb rapidly. Ignore those texts. These were falling just a few days ago. Haven't had time to update it. Lake Travis is rising sharply, could get another 5 to 10 feet of elevation gain. Lake Buchanan is also starting to climb because, friendly reminder, this entire event started out in the hill country. This is the last 5 days of rainfall accumulation. Unbelievable. We now have 20 inches. Some of that's still adding up here in northwest Travis County towards the southeastern side of Burnett County. That water's heading into Lake Travis. This water's heading into Lake Travis. You see that bullseye up there of 20 inches in northwest Mason County? That actually falls into the San Saba River watershed, which goes all the way up through Brady, over to San Saba, meets up with the Colorado River right here before falling down into Lake Buchanan. So Lake Buchanan is just now starting to see its climb, and it will continue to climb as that extreme amount of rainfall, in fact, a record-setting flood for the San Saba River near Brady, is eventually going to make its way downstream. Of course, it's hard to talk about any good news when you're dealing with deadly flooding for the second day in a row. It started on the Guadalupe River in Kerrville, Ingram, Hunt, Texas. The good news there is that it's not raining anymore, and any additional rain over there should be very sparse and shouldn't make matters worse. But we are still certainly in the thick of it here from Austin to Williamson County over towards Burnett County. These flood warnings will be in effect until at least 4 p.m. But when it's still raining heavily in a spot of the world that has already seen 1.5 feet to 20 inches of rain, there's going to be additional problems that we have to face through the rest of the evening. We'll keep an eye on this for you. I'm going to get some new information, and I'll come back to you with an update in a little bit.
Here's another look at some social media. You might want to keep up with all the staff members here at CBS Austin as we continue to post what we are seeing out in the field. This is Emily Miranda. She is posting a video from Shoal Creek looking like what it looks like off of Lamar Boulevard. The water continuing to rise. It is moving rapidly. Now, this is a fast moving situation. No matter where you are in Central Texas, you are going to want to keep abreast of the situations, especially if you're near any rivers or any bodies of water, because they can rise and fall very rapidly. Once again, this is day 2 of deadly flooding. We have 3 dead so far due to the Travis County floods. And this situation once again is changing. We did see some floodwaters move through Williamson County as well, now down into Travis County, and things will continue to flow downstream once again. But Emily Miranda, so we have team coverage out in the field right now. We had Abigail Velez, we have Emily Miranda, we have Betty Cross, we have other members of our team, and so you will want to keep an eye on our social media as well as our main accounts, CBS Austin on Facebook and CBS Austin on Instagram, as well as our website. We will also be pushing out alerts to alert you to situations around Central Texas as they arrive. So you want to sign up for both our weather app right now and our news app. We are waiting in the meantime for Governor Greg Abbott to begin a news conference. Now, the Governor Abbott did have a press conference last night at 9 p.m. where he had updated us on the numbers. So at last check, the number of confirmed people dead in Kerr County, so this is mostly Hunt, Texas, Ingram, Texas, and Kerrville, as of last night, or this morning, excuse me, was 27 people dead. Last night, the governor came and gave a press conference, and we are expecting him to give one any moment now. Let's go ahead and talk to Emily. Emily, you posted that video of Shoal Creek. What are you seeing now? I see you're on the move.
Yeah, Adela, we're on the move right now. We're kind of in a neighborhood right now, just on the opposite side of Lamar, because the last major storm we had, these were some of the neighborhoods that saw Shoal Creek going up right against these houses, and for some people it even flooded inside their houses. Now, when we were back down on Lamar and 12th Street, I had mentioned that we did saw Shoal Creek sending a little bit, but obviously the waters are still high out there. And one of the things that I want to point out when we were out there was we saw people coming out to try to get a look at it, which officials are asking you, please don't do that, because just how quickly everything is changing out here. We saw how quickly that water was flowing. It's an instant when somebody can easily get swept away in that, and that's going to just cause more problems out here. Now, as I mentioned, we're kind of just going and monitoring through these neighborhoods right now, trying to see what Shoal Creek is looking like running through here, if it's backed up to anybody's backyard, if anybody's dealing with flooding out here. But we'll keep you updated on what we're able to find out here and who we're able to talk to, and hopefully nobody out here in these neighborhoods are having to deal with the flooding like we saw during the last storm. But for now, I'll send it back to you, Adela, at the station, and we'll and we'll keep you informed with what we're doing. Reporting in Central Texas, Emily Miranda, CBS Austin News.
All right, thanks, Emily. You can see that the rain, for the most part, appears to have died down where Emily is along Shoal Creek. It was a different story where Betty Cross is in Jonestown not that long ago. And Betty, I see you still have the rain jacket on, so the rain must be coming down. And this is, I mean, there's no other way to put it but disastrous.
It really is, and the rain is coming down fairly heavy right now. In fact, we are seeing the creek level rise, and I have to tell you, we're keeping a very close eye on it. I was standing down there when I did my last live shot. Now you can see it's completely covered with water. Across the bank, there was a family standing where now there's probably about a foot of water. So we are seriously thinking that we might need to move our location relatively soon because we are seeing the water here at this creek that feeds directly into Lake Travis. We're seeing the water level rise, and I mean rise pretty quickly. So I don't know if some of that's from the floodgates that are open. Avery might be able to talk to us about that a little bit more, or if it's just because of this heavy rain in northwest Travis County that we have seen just continually come down. But certainly for the people around here, this has been just a nightmare of a day. 4 or 5 people have seen their docks washed away. A woman saw her house get moved 2 or 3 feet off the foundation by a wall of water that came through here about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. She also lost her vehicle and a motorcycle. So much devastation. Luckily, there have been no reports of any injuries or deaths in the Jonestown area so far. But they are so worried about watching this creek that's right up here in northwest Travis County continue to rage and to get bigger and to see the water level continue to rise this afternoon. So they are just hoping for a break, hoping for the rain to stop, and wondering what the impact might be of dams being opened, of course, further upstream, but they just worry about what the impact could be as more of those floodgates get opened and what they might have to deal with. So for now, we're just going to really keep an eye on this rising water level here. Here's another family you can see across the creek getting out. And I almost want to warn them that we're seeing that water level go up so close to where their tires are right now, and it's continuing to go up, and they're probably going to need to move their vehicle very quickly. But we're certainly watching the situation. We will be bringing you updates throughout the afternoon. But for now, Betty Cross reporting live in Jonestown.
All right, well, Betty will continue to keep an eye on that. Let's go take a look at this video in Georgetown and Williamson County, also seeing some flooding this morning with apartments along the San Gabriel River were evacuated. We also saw that businesses were evacuated. The Georgetown Animal Shelter was evacuating their animals to the Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter, which then put out an ask for people to help them with animals because they're now full. They're now overflowing with animals that they are sheltering from the storm. Let's go ahead and take a look at the San Gabriel, where all of this video of raging water is becoming all too common yesterday, the last 2 days. Now, the San Gabriel River, we don't know right now how high it got exactly. It obviously got to major flood stage, but I asked Avery, and he said the monitor went offline around 2 a.m. and it has just come back online, and that the river has since crested in between that time, but you could see it was raging, incredibly dangerous. And as Emily said, people should probably stay away from the water at this point because it's very unpredictable. The San Gabriel River responsible for the flooding in Georgetown. I would love to be able to say that the danger is over, but I'm not going to go that far because this situation is fast developing and fast changing, and parts of town, parts of central Texas, we are still seeing the rain come down. Let's go ahead and catch up with Avery Tomasco right now, who has been trying to keep an eye on all of central Texas. As I said earlier to Betty, Avery, this is just a disaster in multiple ways.
Yeah. It has been. Of course, what happened this morning here locally, Travis, Williamson, Burnett counties, eerily similar to what happened to our friends, very close neighbors down here in Kerr County in Kerrville. It was another overnight prolific tropical rain event. Let's start the clock at 7 p.m. last night as the heavy rain from the day was starting to wrap up in the hill country. We had this bomb come together, and it just sat there and spun across northwestern Travis County into Williamson and Burnett counties for hours. And we're talking about rainfall rates in excess of 5 to 6 inches per hour for hours. You can do the math, and I'll show you some of the totals that resulted from that momentarily. But just like what had happened on the Guadalupe River in Kerr County, that was a massive amount of water happening in a short period of time that rushed down the creeks, streams, and rivers, led to numerous rescues, and unfortunately at least 3 fatalities, as we have learned it so far this afternoon. We got to this afternoon, there was still that swirl with us, and that swirl remains. So we're still adding to some of these unbelievable rainfall totals that have eclipsed 18 inches in some locations over the last 24 hours. Look at these numbers, closing in on 18 inches right there in the Burnett and Travis and Williamson County corridor there. 8.7 inches just up the road from Leander, 14 to 15 inches very close to Jonestown, northwestern end of Lake Travis. Where does all this water go? Well, we've shown you the video. A lot of it has been going down the San Gabriel River, which, as Adela mentioned, we don't really know how high it got yet. We're going to check in with the National Weather Service. They have been in conversations with the agency that covers these flood monitors, and they may be able to retroactively get the data to see just how high it got. But here's the important news. At 10 to 20 inches that fell, yes, it led to a crest of at least 33 feet. That is more than 6 feet into major flood category, and it's been there for hours. But it is now falling, and actually falling quite sharply as that flood wave continues farther downstream, eventually empties into Granger Lake, which will store some of that water, but it may need to be released downstream from there as well. But that's the good news for our friends up in Williamson County. Hopefully some of those evacuations can be lifted from the nearby apartment complexes, especially on the north side of Georgetown, as this flood water continues to rapidly recede. Not all of this rain bomb went straight into the San Gabriel. A lot of it fell into some of these very small creeks south of Burnett, into northwestern Travis County as well. These creeks are very small. Typically, they don't have anything flowing through them, and when it is flowing, it's not usually that significant. But in this case, it was a torrent of water, so much so that 2 of our flood monitoring sites here washed away downstream, likely. That's the likely conclusion, at least. They stopped reporting as soon as the flood water started rapidly rising. So that's where a lot of roadways have been washed away. Some bridges have been washed away, including at least one historical bridge in Burnett County. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but it is one of the many side effects of this devastating flooding that has been ongoing this morning and unfortunately continues this afternoon. That area where the morning rain bomb fell, still getting heavy tropical rain. In fact, I just checked with the LCRA network of rainfall gauges up here in northwestern Travis County. We've seen another 3 inches or so in just the last hour. This is a 1-hour radar loop. These storms and heavy tropical downpours crawling. Reminder that this is a leftover tropical system that we are dealing with now. It made landfall in Mexico on Sunday, last Sunday, went up the Rio Grande and then made a beeline back towards central Texas and has been with us for the last 48 hours. So this is tropical rainfall. Even though you're not seeing a whole lot of red here in the radar imagery, the moisture profile through the vertical atmosphere where these storms are developing is just loaded with moisture. It's a tropical system, so the rainfall rates are heavier than what radar would lead you to believe. Some of that is working, let me go back, down into Marble Falls as we speak. You saw some flooding and we'll see some new flooding potentially now. The only good news is that this somehow is not as heavy as what fell earlier this morning. So this may cause the creeks and streams to swell again, but they likely will not get to the same flood status that they saw earlier this morning. Going to be watching this closely to see how much of it can make it back into Travis County. We are also under a flash flood warning until 4 p.m. here, including downtown all the way out towards Lake Travis. This rainfall has so far been manageable for us. We talked with Emily, who was at Shoal Creek. Shoal Creek did rise, but it came down pretty quickly. This additional rain, as long as it doesn't get any heavier than this, is not going to lead to significant flash flooding. But of course, we're going to have to watch it just in case. Heading towards the east, we're going to get some additional heavy rain here, but you haven't seen much this week, so this has not caused any flooding. But it's still raining. We've seen inches over here from Smithville over towards Lee and Fayette counties, and we are unfortunately not going to be done yet. This upper level low, again, the remnants of what was Tropical Storm Barry, which made landfall in Mexico almost a full week ago. Here it is. It's spinning very slowly. If it does start to move, it will slowly slide towards the southwest, but at some point we are going to see this start to lose some of its moisture supply. I mean, it's been tapping into so much moisture and raining for days that it can't last forever. On that note, for those of you just tuning in and want to know when is this all finally going to end, there is an end in sight, at least as far as your Saturday night is concerned. Here we go through the afternoon hours. This is brand new computer model data. Still puts some pockets of heavy rain out there, very slow moving, could easily produce some 1 to 3 inch rainfall totals in a very short period of time. For the most part, though, here's midnight tonight. The widespread heavy rain coming to an end, but even these little pockets of showers and storms could still lead to some flooding during the overnight hours. So we still have a long way to go. If you're just tuning in, please continue to stay home if you can. Do not hit the roadways. Do not try to drive at all and encounter any flooded roadways because our first responders are busy rescuing people from their homes. We have a long way to go. We will keep checking the data for you. The good news is the San Gabriel River is falling. That is great news, but the flooding rain threat continues. We have a flash flood watch all the way until 7 p.m. tonight. We'll keep checking everything for you and get you the latest momentarily coming up.
All right, thanks, Avery. We are waiting right now for Governor Greg Abbott to take the microphone here. We are expecting a press conference. It has been pushed back to 2:30, originally scheduled for 2 o'clock, but they are making audio checks, so we expect the governor to take the podium at any moment. We are expecting not only updates on this ongoing fast developing situation across central Texas, but information perhaps on what exactly has happened in Kerr County. Once again, a sort of twin rival flooding situation that happened along the Guadalupe River. Rescue efforts in the meantime are still happening in Kerr County. They are continuing to search for more than 24 girls who are still missing from Camp Mystic. There are a lot of summer camps along the Guadalupe River. As of the last update, 25 girls are still unaccounted for. The Guadalupe River rose more than 20 feet in less than 2 hours early Friday morning. A lot of summer camps along the Guadalupe River as well as RV parks. And some of the missing are also some of the people who were in those RV parks, and those RVs are missing as well or were found further downstream. Now, President Trump is offering sympathy for the victims of all of this devastating flooding across Texas. In a post on Truth Social, he says his administration is working with state and local officials to coordinate the response. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is headed to Kerrville to give more updates. Again, Kerrville and Kerr County, the center of yesterday's flooding disaster, and they are still continuing to look for people who are unaccounted for or who are missing. We have talked about these campers at Camp Mystic. Now, the majority of girls, thankfully, we saw the video of them coming out of the camp yesterday, but nearly 24 of them still unaccounted for. The parents must be frantic. Let's go ahead and take a live shot of the briefing, I believe. It looks like we are starting up here. And okay, this is actually Kristi Noem, who is giving a briefing on the situation. It appears she is here in Texas talking about the response in Kerrville, local and federal officials perhaps working together as Kerrville and Kerr County looks to recover from yesterday's disaster. Of course, this twin disaster across central Texas continuing as Avery is tracking those rains in Travis County and Williamson County. Okay, we see Governor Abbott on her left. We see the emergency management head, Nim Kidd, on her right as they coordinate the disaster response here across central Texas. We also see, it looks like Senator John Cornyn, he would be the senior senator from Texas, taking part in this response to the ongoing disaster across central Texas. I know that we were waiting for a press conference from Governor Abbott with updates on not just what happened in Kerr County. Now, that 27 dead, that was the confirmed number of people who died in the Guadalupe River flooding yesterday. So this number could be updated. And we could see more numbers come out of other central Texas counties. Let's go ahead and go to Betty Cross in northwest Travis County, where the rain is still really coming down. And so this situation is very fast changing where you are too, Betty.
The rain is coming down very hard here. I know you had some good news to report just a few minutes ago about the San Gabriel River, that river level dropping. That is not the case here. I can tell you from this creek that feeds directly into Lake Travis, we have seen it come about 6-7 feet up on the shore further up on the shore than it was just about 20 minutes ago. We were standing down there where you see that rock, that fallen tree and that kind of rock that's right there. That was on dry land. Now, of course, it has a couple of inches of water underneath it. And across the other side where people were standing kind of, you know, a little bit of gawking at all the rushing water, there's no way they could even get close over on that side of the creek anymore. So we have seen a substantial increase in the water level of this creek that's right over here off 1431 in Jonestown, which of course is near Leander, in northwest Travis County. And like I said, it feeds directly into Lake Travis, and they're not getting any relief here yet, and they need some, because people along this creek, well, they have seen some devastation. One person's home destroyed. They also lost their car and a motorcycle. Other people said they have water damage in their homes, and so they definitely want to see some relief, and they're not getting it yet. So the hope right now is that, like Avery said, things are going to start to die down. It's going to make the situation out here better for these people who just need the rain to stop and to get the chance to actually assess the damage, get an insurance adjuster out here, and start trying to rebuild their lives from this. Reporting live in northwest Travis County, Betty Cross, CBS Austin News.
And as we here at CBS Austin continue to cover this ongoing disaster across Central Texas, we are expanding our team coverage. Allison coming in on your day off as well to begin to assist us in our efforts in covering this. This has been fast changing. I know that you began to see some of the rain yesterday when you were anchoring the morning news.
Yeah, live during that morning show, we saw that water rise down in Kerr County. And as you've been talking about the water continuing across all of Central Texas this morning, I think everyone wants to know, how much more rain is going to come down and how long is this going to last, and we're certainly not over with it yet. We're going to check in with Avery Tomasco as we wait for that press conference to get started by Abbott. Avery?
Yeah, and the good news is I still unfortunately have plenty to talk about. In fact, just coming down from the National Weather Service, the flash flood watch everywhere in green, which includes all but Mason and Milam counties, has been extended through 10 p.m. tonight. That means any additional rain, especially after what has happened over the last couple of days, could quickly lead to additional flash flooding. The worst of it, I do think, is behind us, but some areas have not experienced flash flooding yet. You've seen plenty of rain. Additional rain could lead to flash flooding in your neck of the woods. Again, we're very closely watching the very latest of our computer model data. This is pretty well representative of what we have out there right now. Storms, some of which are heavy, from Austin towards the northwest, Lake Travis over towards Burnett, Williamson counties. The overall trend is for this broad swirl of low pressure to continue to bring storms to some areas. Some of which could settle onto either side of I-35 with this brand new update that we're both digesting together here on live TV. Eventually, we'll start to see this thing run out of its gas. But for now, it still has just a ridiculous supply of moisture available to it to continue to tap into, especially once we lose the heat of the day. And it's not hot out there, especially by July standards. We'll start to see this activity wane. Still, what we're seeing from what I just showed you, again, brand new numbers, anywhere in yellow. And let's hope this is not accurate, because reminder that this part of Burnett County has already seen 20 inches of rain with this event. Unbelievable. Almost 2/3 of a year's worth of rainfall supply. Any of this additional rain, especially if it's super heavy like this, 1 to 3 or even 6 inches, that could lead to additional significant flash flooding. If we get some of this heavy rain to the east of I-35, that shouldn't be as big of a problem because you haven't seen that much rainfall yet this week. Certainly not as much as we've seen along and west of I-35. This has been such a heartbreaking week. The fatalities in Kerr County, the missing girls from Camp Mystic, a place that I spent a lot of time as a kid, Camp Rio Vista. This all hits very close to home. There's so much bad news to go around. If there's any good news to find, it's that Lake Travis is finally climbing significantly. I want to say for the first time since the October 2018 floods of the Llano River. It's up 13 feet since just last night. It's now 59% full, up to 651 feet of elevation. The fact that it's 59% full is good news. Any additional flooding can still be captured by Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan. 64% full there. These are not falling. These are rising quickly, but there's still room to capture more floodwater. This, by the way, is how this entire flood system was designed. Lake Travis, Lake Buchanan constructed to capture and prevent floodwater from inundating the city of Austin, which historically was a major problem. Washed out 2 dams where Tom Miller Dam currently stands. but now it's working in our favor, capturing the flood water, and we can store that for future use. Reminder that this has been a multi-day event that expands through much of the hill country. Of course, that bullseye of rain that came down yesterday morning in Kerr County and led to the catastrophic flooding on the Guadalupe River. I want to draw your attention first to this bullseye of 20 inches of rain. These numbers continue to update every 15 minutes or so live on TV. And this number continues to climb because it's still raining there. That is 2/3 of a year's worth of rain. In Austin, we usually get 36 inches of rain in an entire year. So this amount of rain, mostly falling since midnight, is unbelievable. Northwestern Mason County, another bullseye of close to 20 inches of rain. This is benefiting Lake Buchanan, but it takes a lot longer for that water to get here because it goes up through McCullough County, San Saba County, through San Saba. The San Saba River goes into the north, that meets up with the Colorado River before dropping into Lake Buchanan, which is just now starting to see the bulk of its elevation increase. But it could, I don't want to conjecture too much, it could possibly fill up with this event. It's that much water. Record-setting flooding on the San Saba River over the last couple of days, and that flood water is just now making it down to Lake Buchanan. It doesn't take a meteorologist to identify that tropical swirl that is still just stuck here in central Texas, and this is just a 1-hour radar loop. It's been swirling here for days now, slowly crawling its way from the Rio Grande River Valley out in southwest Texas. As we speak, it is still raining heavily in these flash flood warning areas, especially over Marble Falls. We even have some lightning indicated here, which is harder to get in a really tropical environment like we have, but is indicative of some exceptionally heavy rainfall rates. And because of how slowly it's moving, I'll have to check. Wouldn't surprise me if Marble Falls has picked up an inch in the last 15 minutes. That's how heavy this rainfall can be. It's still raining heavily over Lake Travis, the northwest side of Travis County. This is moving slowly down towards Spicewood. All of these areas are already under flash flood warnings. And in this shaded area up here, that's the flash flood emergency, rarely issued by National Weather Service offices, and this is the second one they've had to issue in the last 24 hours. The first one, of course, being over there in Kerr County with the devastating flooding yesterday morning. A little bit closer to home, here's Austin, downtown Austin. This is indeed some heavy tropical rain. I know it doesn't look quite as intense, but because of how much moisture these showers have to work with, they're very efficient rain producers. So that is indeed some heavy rain snaking its way in through Westlake into the west side of downtown Austin. We have not seen any significant flooding in the central Austin area just yet. There was a lot of heavy rain earlier, led to a quick but not significant rise on Shoal Creek, Walnut Creek, Little Walnut Creek. Those run up here through northeast side of North Austin. This additional rain could cause those creeks to swell again. That's why there's a flood warning in effect. We don't want you driving. We don't want you trying to navigate through this because our first responders are busy helping a lot of other people out, a lot of which have had their homes destroyed today by this flooding. Also want to highlight your attention over here towards the hill country, Llano County. Some isolated, very heavy rain development is getting started over there in the southern end of Llano County. We'll have to watch this and any new storms that develop because this area, water soaked. The soil doesn't have any more room to store any of this water, so it's all going to run off into the creeks and streams and could lead to some additional flooding. I think the worst of it's behind us. Trying to find some positives here. But the flood threat does remain. Want you to stay at home, want you to stay safe, want you to stay off the roads if at all possible, but please continue to be very highly tuned to the situation. We have at least 6 to 8 more hours of flooding concerns with that watch extended until 10 p.m. We'll have more momentarily. For now, let's get back to Adela and Allison.
All right, more information right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the outage map for Austin Energy. And we are seeing, I think, about 1,600. That number is pretty small there in the corner. Outages, power outages right now. Encore also reporting thousands of power outages as this weather continues to swirl around central Texas. And we are keeping an eye on the power outages along with every other effect of this ongoing disaster. I do want to add that the Kerrville Public Utility Board is saying that they have made progress in restoring power in the Hunt area. So this was the area that was washed out yesterday morning, and along with the summer camps and those RV parks being washed away, of course, that took out some power poles as well. They say up to Riverbend and Breakfast, covering the Riverbend Ranch subdivision, Camp Stewart, and the Honey Creek Road area, that's where crews have restored power. This is in Kerrville. In the meantime, what you're looking at on your screen is Austin Energy showing where there are power outages. So as we continue to see this weather move through central Texas, we are going to keep an eye on the power outages as well, and 3 dead due to Travis County floods. As we continue our coverage.
And several still missing. Emily Miranda is live near, you were near the Shoal Creek area, and I believe at last check, Emily, you were saying the water was receding, but as we just heard from Avery, can't let our guards down because more rain is headed our way.
And Allison, that's a great point you make about more rain, because right now it's starting to come down on us again. Now we're currently off of Shoal Creek Boulevard, and I'll give you a look outside because we've stopped right over the creek. And as I mentioned, you can see that it is still flowing very rapidly. Now we're in the neighborhoods that during the last major storm, we saw this creek coming up into people's backyards. One of the things that I will say right now, as we've been driving around through here, we haven't seen the water coming across the roadways like we did last time. So that's a good sign right now. But of course, this, as Avery has mentioned, this situation is changing out here. But if you take a look at the creek again, you can see just how rapidly it's flowing. On our way out here, we passed the park and we saw several people stopping to look at this creek. And I'm just going to keep hitting on this every time you guys come to me, but please, you're being asked, don't come out here and look at this, because this situation is changing and it only takes 1 second for something to happen. And we have our emergency crews who are out and about trying to help people who are in situations that need to get out of their house. So please stay home if you need to. If you need to be out on the roads, try not to be, because as we've been driving around, the water is again starting to accumulate on the roads, and it's not the best conditions for driving. And as we continue to say and continue to hit on, turn around, don't drown. Now we're going to continue to drive through these neighborhoods, especially as the rain's coming back down, just to see how much this creek changes within the next few minutes, and hopefully it stays far enough away from the back of these people's houses where they're not going to have to experience the flooding like they did during our last storm. But we'll keep you up to date on what we're seeing out here. But for now, I'll send it back to the studio. So reporting in Central Austin, Emily Miranda, CBS Austin News.
All right, thanks, Emily. We'll check back in with you. Here's a look at video up in Georgetown. We know new information just coming in from our Abigail Velez, who is there. She says 2 people are missing in Williamson County. This after their home was just rushed away by those floodwaters, those fast-moving floodwaters. We know at least 10 water rescue recoveries have been underway. This is since last night. 1 water rescue is happening with a person that got swept up by the floods. And Wilco units that were sent to Kerr County have been called to return to help with those water rescues in their own county. We know that evacuations have not yet been lifted, and there are 26 active road closures. The San Gabriel River is above flood stage. And we also know that air support from Fort Canaveras Hood has been assisting with the rescues in Wilco. Bridges around the county have not fallen, but they are deemed unstable, and we've seen that in some of the videos, so that's why those are closed off.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the room where we are waiting for a press conference. Now, we know that Governor Abbott and Nim Kidd and the senior senator from Texas, John Cornyn, were getting a briefing from Kristi Noem, and so we are expecting a press conference from them at any moment.
Yeah, so when that happens, we'll bring that to you live here on CBS Austin. In the meantime, we want to toss it back over to meteorologist Avery Tomasco as we continue to see those flash flood warnings, the flash flood watch extended. It's still very busy.
It certainly is, and you don't need me to remind you, but I will anyway, that this all started early yesterday morning over there in Kerr County. A rain bomb came down. 10 to 12 or 13 inches of rain came rushing down the Guadalupe, and we know the results of that flood all too well. As we speak this morning, we're waiting for a press conference. This afternoon, excuse me, we're waiting for that press conference for an update on the search and rescue efforts. An eerily similar situation happened in our own dark of morning in our own northwestern corner of Travis County, Williamson County, and DeBurnett County. While you were sleeping, while I was sleeping, frankly, we had a rain bomb of over a foot to 1.5 foot of rain come down right in this small corner of northwest Travis County, Burnett County, over towards Williamson County. That's 18.5 inches. Last 24 hours, but most of that, folks, came since midnight. That's half a year's worth of rain in one morning. And this is Flash Flood Alley. The soil over here, especially when you get west of I-35, is shallow. Can't soak up that much water before it all starts running off into creeks, streams, and of course the rivers. Today, it's been all about the San Gabriel River. And there's some good news. This number, 26 feet of its current elevation, that's outdated. It's dropped below 26 feet, which is a pretty substantial decline because it came all the way up to at least 33 feet, but we're not exactly sure how high it got because the flood gauge there was not reporting for most of the day until I want to say about an hour and a half ago. So it's coming down quickly, but no surprise that it spiked as much as it did with some evacuations in apartment buildings neighboring the San Gabriel River in Georgetown, at least I believe a mobile RV park that was evacuated as well. That flood wave has now finally cleared out of Georgetown. It's receding there and it continues over towards Granger Lake. Eventually, Granger Lake is going to probably swell from this flood. It'll have to pass some water. If I'm not mistaken, this eventually goes all the way over into Milam County. And we'll have to watch that a little later on. But for now, the good news is San Gabriel is dropping. It wasn't just the San Gabriel that had to deal with this excessive amount of water coming from the sky. There are a lot of smaller creeks in here. Burnett County over to Travis County. These are typically very small waterways that most of the time, especially the last 5 years or so, haven't been flowing at all. At one point, this was we had a couple of creeks passing 50,000 cubic feet per second downstream. We don't know if that was the peak because those flood gauges got washed downstream, along with numerous roads, bridges that were destroyed over here, and including one historic bridge. And these roads are going to continue to be impassable for a while. And this, as we have learned from Austin Travis County EMS, made the rescue efforts for a couple dozen people in one northwest Travis County neighborhood extremely hard to access, but they accessed them. They got many of those rescued, but we have learned that at least 3 people have died from this morning's rain bomb. Where do we go from here? Unfortunately, it is still raining where it has rained the heaviest today since midnight earlier this morning. Let me zero in here on southern Burnett County. This, by the way, is the ongoing flash flood emergency, a rarely issued product only for the most significant flood events. There was one issued over there in Kerr County yesterday morning, and one was issued for us early this morning, and it's still in effect hours later because it's still raining here. I just checked some of the LCRA rainfall gauges. More than 2 inches has fallen in northwest Travis County to southern Burnett County in just the last hour. And I know this doesn't look all that intense. Typically around here, we're talking about severe thunderstorms. We're on the color scale. You're looking at deep reds, pinks, and even blacks. This isn't the same kind of a severe weather setup. This is a leftover tropical system that has so much moisture loaded up with it from floor to ceiling in the atmosphere that even these oranges and yellows represent exceptionally heavy tropical rainfall rates, upwards of 1 to 3 inches, even up to 6 inches per hour at times. The good news is that this is moving. At least this morning it wasn't, but now it's starting to slowly settle to the south, but it's still been raining here for about the last 2 hours. Continues to rain, so the flooding we saw this morning is not going to be as bad as we saw this morning, but we could see some of those creeks and rivers swell once again. All that water eventually passing down into Lake Travis. And on that note, we've had some floodgate operations. Those continue above Lake Travis for Lake LBJ, Lake Marble Falls. Those waterways still moving very quickly. Some boats and some docks were washed downstream on those usually very constant level lakes. We don't call them constant level lakes though, because in situations like this, when it does flood significantly and they have to open the floodgates, the water rises, moves fast, and it does not stay at that constant level. Little tidbit for you. When it floods, there's nothing you can do to keep some of our waterways steady. Some of this heavy rain now moving closer to downtown Austin. As mentioned, it doesn't look like much, but this is heavy tropical rain, even in the yellow and orange colors there over Loop 360, Westlake Hills. The water, the soil, I should say, around Austin now thoroughly soaked. It took a while for us to get some heavy rain today, but we did earlier. Here's some additional heavy rain. So this is a flash flood warning in effect until at least 4 p.m., maybe extended as long as this activity is so slowly crawling into our neck of the woods. I have not seen any significant flooding reports around the downtown Austin area, but many of these creeks and streams could quickly swell as this additional rain starts to move in from the northwest. Also watching closely this northeastern side of the circulation. Some of this may try to wrap back around, and if it comes into Williamson County, we may see some new flooding concerns in general over the next 5 to 6 or even 10 hours before slowly but surely this tropical system will start to rain itself out. But that is the tropical system. This was a hurricane, excuse me, not a hurricane. It was a tropical storm, the second of the Atlantic hurricane season. Barry made landfall in Mexico 6 days ago. It went up the Rio Grande, slowly snaked its way back eastward after loading up our atmosphere with moisture. Tropical moisture, here it is, just dumping rain on us. This is slowly trying to move towards the southwest. Hopefully it does sooner rather than later. But as it continues to meander very slowly over central Texas, we're going to keep this flood threat in place for a while. In case you missed the update, this was initially issued through 7 p.m. It's been extended by 3 more hours, goes all the way through 10 p.m. tonight for additional heavy rain and flooding concerns. Latest computer model data, this updates every hour for us, and it continues to show the bullseye of some of the heaviest rain, perhaps spreading a bit further into parts of the hill country, while some heavy rain, less likely to lead to flooding because you haven't seen much over here yet, continues on the east side of I-35. But give it some time. Let's go deeper into the evening. After sunset, still some slow-moving heavy rain, but it starts to peter out a little bit. We could still have some pockets of heavy rain left over heading into the early Sunday morning hours, but I think after midnight, the worst of this is done. Future rainfall projections, they're going to be a little picky, much like we're seeing up in northwest Travis County to Burnett County right now. There could be some rain bombs in there where it's not out of the question we see another 3, 4, 5, or 6 inches in a couple of pockets. Whew, let's hope it does not happen where there have already been 18 inches of rain that have fallen since midnight this morning. But if this does happen, northwestern Travis County to Burnett County, even over to Llano, we could be looking at some additional significant flooding rain. Not out of the question. If there's any good news to find from the tragedy that has unfolded over the last 36 hours, it is that floods are an unfortunate, necessary part of our water cycle. We store that flood water in Lake Travis and Lake Buchanan. Lake Travis is still climbing sharply. It's at least 13 feet higher. We've been on air for about the last hour now, so it's probably 14 feet higher. It's rising that quickly, 59% full and climbing. Lake Buchanan is also going to start to see its elevation increase a little later than Lake Travis because a lot of the rain bomb that fell in northwestern Mason County, that is Lake Buchanan's benefit. But it takes a long time to get there because it goes through the San Saba River in McCulloch County, San Saba County, and then meets up with the rest of the Colorado River before emptying into Lake Buchanan. There is going to be a significant gain of elevation, I think, on Lake Buchanan, at least 10, maybe 15 or 20 feet. We could be very well close to filling at least one of our flood storage reservoirs. But that is what they are built for, catching the flood water, preventing for that from rolling down the Colorado River right into downtown Austin and into Lady Bird Lake. Before I wrap up this segment of your unfortunate weather forecast, one more look at radar. The flood emergency continues for Burnett County over towards Williamson County until 4 p.m. That's another hour and 10 minutes. This flood warning for Austin goes until 4 p.m. as of last check, but could be extended because, as you can see, the slow-moving tropical downpours are still not quitting. It's raining heavily from Lago Vista to Spicewood to the southern end of Marble Falls, heads up in Blanco County. Some of this is slowly dropping into your neck of the woods. I'm going to go get another rundown of all the data I need to absorb, get it back to you here in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Avery. We're checking all the road closures that are happening around town. These are the low water crossings that are closed. They've been going up every time we've checked it. I think it's now at 118 in and around Austin, a lot out towards Llano and Marble Falls. I've also been checking, some of these have cameras so you can see what they look like. A lot of them, of course, covered in roadways. Some of them, this one you can see the cones telling drivers not to cross that roadway, but a lot of them don't have the cones, Adela. So that's just a reminder that if you come across one of these, it's not blocked off. Like this one, you don't know the height of the water, just turn around, don't drown. Again, there's 118 in central Texas, a lot of those where we've been seeing some of the heavier rainfall out towards Marble Falls and Llano this morning.
Of course, about 6 inches of water can take your car, can sweep your car away. So this is something to keep an eye out on. We are also showing some of the social media posts coming out of Kerr County right now. I believe this is the Ingram Independent School District. They are saying that you can pick up cleaning supplies as Kerr County begins to try and recover on this day. They've got a list of what you can pick up, also what you can donate. So they say they have enough bottled water right now, but they could use things like bathroom supplies, bleach, vinegar, things for people to begin mopping up those people who saw floodwaters inside their home. Now, there are also power outages in Hunt right now, and crews there are working very hard to try and get the power restored in Hunt. They have a list of where the crews have restored power for. But they are asking people to be patient because it is not necessarily always easy to get to where the damage is if the powers are down or wires are down. We've also got trees down and buildings that are swept away.
Yeah, a lot of rough terrain that they're working through in that area. We want to head out to Betty Cross, who's in Jonestown this morning, where the rain is coming down yet again. Betty, all that water, though, headed into Lake Travis. That the story you did, what was it, Thursday? Was at 44% full?
44% full.
Now it's about 60 and rising. What are you seeing?
Oh my gosh, the rain is still so heavy out here. I know y'all talk about some areas around Austin getting some relief. They are getting no relief out here in the Georgetown, Leander, Lago Vista area. It has been coming down, just pounding on us all afternoon. And we're certainly seeing that raise the creek levels out here, those creeks that feed into Lake Travis. We had to move because we saw the creek that we were on just right down there coming up so quickly, it just didn't feel safe. So we've had to move, and what we want to show you is some of the damage, because where I'm standing right now, I couldn't have about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. This area was covered in water. It was about waist deep, they tell me, and you can see what it did to this tree. Just yanked it up by its roots, and of course it has just toppled out. And looking at the size of this tree, you can see that was no easy task. That had to be a giant force of water. In fact, one man told me he described the force of the water as a bulldozer. And you can certainly see by the looks of this tree, that's the case. I've also been telling you this afternoon about a woman who I met today who was so kind to talk to us, who lives right over there in that house. That is the house that was swept off of its foundation, the water moved it about 3 feet off of its foundation. And she says it's just completely destroyed everything, because in addition to the water moving the house, inside it went up, she said, about halfway up the wall. So she just doesn't think they're going to be able to salvage much. They did have a U-Haul there just about 30 minutes ago. They were trying to bring out anything that they could, anything that they could save, but she was just so worried there really wouldn't be much to fill that U-Haul. And it's just such a sad story. The good news is there were 4 kids inside that house, 4 dogs, of course the parents, everyone got out safely. But she says that only happened because someone who works at Texas Paintball was worried about their business, went and checked on it at 3 in the morning, saw how quickly the water was starting to rise, kept an eye on it, and at 4 in the morning, he knew he just had to start warning people. He went to that house and all the others around here, pounding on windows and doors, and he is the one everyone here credits with getting everyone out safely. Of course, police arrived shortly thereafter, but everyone says if that guy just by chance hadn't happened to be at his business checking on it, they don't know what would have happened to them. Because you can see the water that quickly came after that could uproot trees like this. And as I said, waist deep right here where I'm standing, just at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock this morning. So the water levels have gone back down, but as I told you just a minute ago, we've had to move our live shot location because the water levels are starting to go back up. So we're just hoping that the rain is going to stop sooner rather than later. And I know we're waiting for an update from the governor. Can't wait to hear what he has to say about the situation in Travis County and really across central Texas. This is Betty Cross reporting live, CBS Austin in Jonestown.
Let's take another look at the presser. We are waiting for Governor Greg Abbott to take the podium there. We know that he was in a briefing with Kristi Noem, Nimkid. We did see Senator John Cornyn there as well. So we are expecting to hear possibly like what the response is to this ongoing situation today, and also the response to what happened in Kerr County yesterday when the Guadalupe River rose and swept so many people away.
Yeah, they're in Kerrville, which is still a dire situation, but now you have to add in what's going on in Travis County and Williamson County as well. The death toll from the devastating flooding down in Kerr County has risen to 27. Kerr County Sheriff Larry Lifka says that over 850 people have been found uninjured and 8 people are hurt. He also says 100 have been evacuated. U.S. Representative Chip Roy, who is also supposed to be in that press conference, gave thanks to the first responders who worked through the night to save victims.
Extremely proud of this community. Let's finish the job here over the next few days, support the local law enforcement and the first responders, and pray for the families, particularly those who have lost loved ones.
All right, and Avery Tomasco, of course, working tirelessly to keep an eye on this ever-changing system. Now, Avery, this is a tropical system, and if you had been outside, if you were not maybe threatened by the water, but you'd wondered why it is so warm and humid. That's why.
Yep, not only here at the surface where we live, but all the way through the vertical atmosphere, which leads to exceptionally heavy rainfall rates, even if it doesn't appear to be that heavy when you're looking at radar. This event that started over there in Kerr County along the Guadalupe River unfortunately hit so close to home. I was telling Allison just yesterday about how I spent many summers as a kid over there along the Guadalupe at Camp Rio Vista, and we would oftentimes, at least once every summer that I was there, have a little soiree, if you will, with the Camp Mystic kids. I would go over to Camp Mystic. They would come over to our camp to have a dance. So it's so tragic, I know, for me and for many of you at home as well, that know of kids and families that send their kids to camps over there, to see this all unfold in the last 24 hours. It has been absolutely heartbreaking. That was an overnight rain bomb on the Guadalupe River watershed that in the dark of night sent water surging downstream the Guadalupe. We had an eerily similar situation happen last night, this morning, right here in northwestern Travis County over towards Burnett County. These are 24-hour rainfall totals. Take 12 hours off of that. Most of this fell since midnight, and that is 18.5 inches of rain on the eastern side of Burnett County. That's 16 inches northwestern Travis County, 9 inches closer to Leander, and this is a pretty widespread bomb of rain, even a foot up there towards Burnett. So this water has to go somewhere, right? The soil out here is much more shallow than you'll find east of I-35, more rocky terrain. It's called the hill country for a reason. So when the soil was soaked, it all had to run downstream, and it has, especially along the San Gabriel River. There's a North Fork and a South Fork. The North Fork goes into Lake Georgetown, which is filling up rapidly, and they need to release some water downstream along the North Fork of the San Gabriel River, but it's the South Fork that's done the most damage. I've seen some incredible video of some neighborhoods flooded out towards Liberty Hill, between Liberty Hill and Bertram, of a neighborhood there that was pretty close to the South Fork, and it was flooded intensely this morning. The good news is that the San Gabriel has peaked, hopefully for good. I don't think it'll crest again to the 33 or more feet that we saw just a few hours ago. It's now subsiding rapidly. Major flooding starts at 26 feet, so now below major flooding into the moderate floods category. So things are improving rapidly, at least in Georgetown proper, but there's going to be a lot of water moving further downstream into Granger Lake through the rest of the evening. There was a lot more water that had to pass downstream as well. Not all of it went to the San Gabriel. A lot of it went into these very small creeks that get into Lake Travis or out closer towards the southeastern side of Marble Falls, east of the Max Starkey Dam. And those creeks and rivers swelled incredibly fast, so much so that two of our gauges here that monitor some creek and stream flow, they were washed downstream, obliterated. They have not been reporting for hours now, but they peaked somewhere north of 50,000 cubic feet per second. That's all going down to Lake Travis, but unfortunately in the process, numerous roads were washed out here, numerous bridges were washed out here. So in this corner of the world, you're probably going to have a hard time getting from A to B even long after this flooding subsides, just because of the damage that was done from this morning's insane flooding. And we're not done yet, unfortunately. Again, if you're just joining us, we're in special live coverage covering this deadly flood event, and it has been unfortunately deadly for us here at home in Travis County, with at least 3 lives lost and others missing. The flooding continues in some of the areas that I just showed you that picked up 10 to 20 inches of rain since midnight this morning. We've seen another 3 inches fall in 1 hour with this storm moving through Marble Falls. Still raining there, but thankfully not as heavy as it once was. This is some heavy rain as well, tropical style. Adela mentioned how warm and humid it is outside. You can copy and paste that all the way through the top of the troposphere. That is where weather lives. And with so much moisture available for these seemingly innocuous showers on radar, these are much heavier than what radar seems to lead you to believe. That heavy rain's now coming down in Austin, central Austin. We'll have to watch Shoal Creek, maybe Waller Creek. Little Walnut Creek and Walnut Creek in the northeast side of Austin were swelling earlier. Could see those start to rise again. All this so slowly crawling to the southeast at what, 5-10 miles per hour at the very most. When we're talking about severe storms, they can move through at 20, 30, 40 miles per hour. But this is a tropical swirl we still have left over. Some of that rain trying to wrap back around into Williamson County. We'll have to watch that over the next few hours. This thing just isn't going anywhere. The swirl's been stuck with us ever since this morning, and it continues to very slowly. It's stalled at the moment. If it does move, it's going to try to move slowly towards the southwest. If we're lucky, this is going to start to run out of moisture, if we're lucky. That should happen later this evening into the overnight hours, but for now, we still have a flood watch in effect all the way until 10 p.m. tonight. That has been extended. Any of these pockets of heavy rain will quickly lead to flash flooding now that everything is totally waterlogged. We're going to keep, of course, an eye on the ongoing situation, and we're hopefully going to get some updates from our state and national leaders soon on the situation in Kerrville. For now, I'm going to send it back to Adela and Allison at the desk.
Speaking of state leaders, let's go ahead and show this video. This is the Joppa Bridge. I think you said Burnett County, Allison. This is posted by State Representative Ellen Troxclair, and she is showing the river simply washed the bridge away. And this is going to be an all too common sight by the time this system is said and done.
Yeah, that's a powerful sight to see. There it is, the water just taking that bridge away. And that is a historic bridge that was built back in the early 1900s. So means a lot to that community. So really sad sight to see that bridge completely washed away. That's also what we're dealing with some of these rivers is just debris, bridges, structures, trees, all caught up in that water. So another reason to just stay away from those high rising water areas.
Let's go ahead and take a look at Georgetown, I believe. Just another picture of fast moving water. Look how fast the river is moving. And again, a warning to stay away from this. This water is moving very rapidly. You don't want to get caught up in it. You certainly don't want to drive through it because this can sweep your car away. It is sweeping homes away. And we have video of people there. I don't mean to criticize them, but this is a very dangerous and fast changing situation. We see some ponding there in San Gabriel Park, and then the San Gabriel River itself. We don't actually know how high it got because the sensors went offline.
I think Avery was saying that it was at least above 33 plus feet. It has gone down now, I think just below major flood stage, 26 feet or so. So that's good news there. But yeah, that was really catching some of those bridges and deteriorating some of them. So it's a sad sight to see as well.
And we did see a quick look at the press conference. We are still waiting for State Governor Greg Abbott to take the stand to update us all. We saw him briefing with Kristi Noem and other state leaders. We have CBS Austin's Vinny Martirano there, who at the press conference waiting, and we're going to hear from him later today. But we'll go ahead and go back to Betty in Jonestown. Betty, you were just getting rained on, and you were monitoring this situation. That water looks like it's continuing to rise.
The water's continuing to rise. The rain is continuing to come down. I keep hearing Avery talk about these places that are getting relief. It is certainly not Jonestown or Leander. It is just pounding down on our heads. And of course, that is not what the people out here want to be seen or hearing. I mean, it's so loud, the rain right now. And, you know, that's not going to bring any relief, and they need some relief after the night that they've had. Of course, where I'm standing right now, they told me at 4 or 5 o'clock this morning, waist deep right here. And that was people trying to get out of their homes, trying to get their kids and their pets to safety. It was a nightmare for them. Luckily, we haven't heard of any injuries or deaths in this area, in the Jonestown area, at least so far, and that is such good news. But they just want some relief right now. They want this rain to stop. They want to be able to assess the damage in their homes. And as I showed you before, it is that home right over there across the street that has really sustained the worst of the damage out here. The home was moved about 2 to 3 feet off of its foundation, and they don't think it's going to be salvageable. They think that's going to be the end for that house, and they need a chance to talk to insurance adjusters, figure out what they're going to do, because right now they can't even live there. They brought a U-Haul in to try to salvage any of their belongings, photos, those things that are most precious to you. And there really wasn't that much that they could even get, because they said on the walls of their home, well, it went up about halfway. And so much is damaged at that point. But I'm just hoping they were able to find at least a few things that they could put in that U-Haul and get out of here. I showed you this tree in our last live shot, and I mean, it just, I think more than almost anything, shows you the force and the power of this water. One man who lives out here told me it was like a bulldozer. He said the power of it is just something he's never experienced before. Told me he's lived out here in Jonestown for 20 years. He's seen his share of flooding, but he said the way the water came in so quickly and the way that it just moved cars, a motorcycle, big giant tires, and just swept them away just so easily, so quickly. He said that's what he's never seen before. And that's why this home was moved off of its foundation a few feet, why her car, she's yet to be able to find it. It's somewhere downstream. And we talked to some people a little bit further downstream who live on the water and have docks. At least 5 docks were just swept away. And of course, others damaged. And that's going to be something that, as this rain finally stops, they're able to get out there and actually assess that damage. But one woman, she texted me not too long ago, gave me a photo of the dock she found about half a mile downstream from where it's supposed to be. So lots of damage to be looked at here, but of course they want to hear what the governor has to say as well. And so for now, Betty Cross reporting live in Jonestown.
That popping sound, I think, is the rain just hitting that microphone. It's still coming down where Betty is. And we are waiting on that press conference from Governor Abbott that was supposed to start at 2:45. As soon as that begins, we'll bring that to you live. This is a look at rescue crews that are in Kerr County. They are continuing to search for more than 24 girls that are still missing from Camp Mystic. As the last update, 25 are still unaccounted for. The Guadalupe River, as you know, rose more than 20 feet in under 2 hours. This all happened early Friday morning, and rescue crews have said they're working through really tough conditions. But as Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick had said, they're going to try everything they humanly possibly can to find all of the children.
Camp Mystic, of course, is a century-old camp. Lots of Texans generations of Texans have spent summers there. In the meantime, President Trump is offering sympathy right now for the victims of this devastating flooding across central Texas. In a post on Truth Social, he says his administration is working with state and local officials to coordinate response. We did see a video of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem sitting with Governor Greg Abbott and with Nim Kidd and with Senator John Cornyn. Here in this Truth Social post, he says that she was headed to Kerrville to give more updates. So we've certainly cited her here in Texas, and we expect we would probably hear from her as well as the governor whenever this press conference begins. Let's go ahead and take a look at ATX floods around Spicewood Springs roadway. Now this is Austin Energy taking a look at some of the power outages. Power outages, another difficulty to deal with here across central Texas. 1,700 people or 1,700 customers for Austin Energy without power right now. And this is not even including Oncor or any other power companies across central Texas.
And Austin Energy has said that a lot of these are under investigation, likely due to weather. Some of those are from tree branches that have fallen onto the power lines. This is, I believe, Oncor. You can see the power outages. What's the number there? I can't see it. 852 that are in the dark as of right now as crews try and work through the rain and debris to get that power restored.
Yeah, this weather has certainly brought down some trees and some power lines as rivers have jumped their banks and overflowed their banks, as well as the rain basically destabilizing some of the soil as well. And don't forget that there are branches and other debris being left as the waters rise and debris. Let's go ahead and take a look at the presser once again. We are waiting for Governor Greg Abbott to take the podium there.
Yeah, we know that he just posted this was supposed to happen at 2:45. He's with U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. U.S. Senator John Cornyn is supposed to be there. U.S. Congressman Chip Roy is supposed to be there, along with state and local leaders. We last heard from Governor Abbott this morning.
We had an update. We had a confirmation of the 27 confirmed dead in Kerr County. Now, this does not include what we had 3 people in Travis County who are confirmed dead. And I believe there are 2 in Williamson County. This doesn't count all the missing. I think they said 20 to 25 missing.
20 to 25, a lot of those, the kids from Camp Mystic down in Kerr County, some missing in Travis County and Williamson County as well. be helpful if we could clear out the rain to really help the crews out, but the rain just keeps on coming. Avery, you were saying this is all from Tropical Storm Barry that hit landfall in Mexico 6 days ago and just wreaked havoc across Texas, and it's still wreaking havoc.
Yeah, I kind of regret my words that I've said over the last, 5 summers, where every summer I'm like, okay, if we're going to get any rainfall, it's got to come from something tropical that could help us out big time. It is helping us out in the rain supply and water storage supply department, but the cost has been so unbelievable and hard to stomach. The kids missing, the deaths, some of which occurred this morning right here in our own backyard due to the ongoing tropical rainfall. Yes, this was Tropical Storm Barry, loaded up our atmosphere with moisture. It went up the Rio Grande and then back from West Texas into our neck of the woods, and as you can see, it is still parked here. This is a live look from South Austin. That's Ben White right there. American flag blowing a little bit. These aren't severe storms, and there's no tropical storm force winds or anything, but it's all the tropical moisture, right? Coming down in buckets. Here we are on a July afternoon, typically where we're 100 to 115 degrees hot. We're still in the 70s. At least we have that going for us. But the unfortunate news I have for you at the moment is that the flood threat continues. We're going to wrap this up. It looks like the pressure is getting started. Let's get over to Adela and Allison for updates.
That's right. We've been waiting for Governor Greg Abbott to take the podium. It looks like we're beginning to see leadership get seated right there. We have our CBS Austin's Vinny Martirano, who is at the press conference, but we are going to carry this live. We've seen the governor, we've seen other state and local leadership and also national leadership conferring with the governor in that briefing video.
A lot of people have questions on the rescue efforts that are underway now. Obviously, it's been now over 24 hours since this flooding has occurred. So the restlessness, people really want those kids to be found. So a lot of questions for the governor. We've got Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick possibly there, U.S. Senator John Cornyn, as we mentioned, U.S. Congressman Chip Roy, and U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. That should all be showing up. There's the governor stepping in this morning to hopefully update us on hopefully they have an update on how many are missing now, and that number has gone down. I know crews have been working through some really rough terrain down in Kerr County after that river rose nearly 30 feet in just a couple hours, and it was in the overnight hours.
And here we're just going to go ahead and throw it to the press conference. We see the governor, we see Kristi Noem, we see John Cornyn and other leadership, so we will listen in.
I want to thank everybody for gathering with us here today, and we are especially pleased to have with us today Secretary Kristi Noem from the Department of Homeland Security, who will share with you a lot of information herself. Before I do pass the mic to her, there are several things that I want to announce as well as some things to share. First, what I have observed in this community over the past 24 hours is what I call quintessential Texas. When Texans face a challenge, we come together, we unite. And that's exactly what's happened over the past 24 to 48 hours in this community. Nothing more than extraordinary devastation. And the worst thing that could have happened in this community fell upon it. They could have fallen apart. They could have fought against each other. But instead, they understand the importance of unity. And it's what Texans do. It's what we will continue to do. Along those lines, something else to double down on what I said last night. We will be relentless in going after and ensuring that we locate every single person who's been a victim of this flooding event. We're not going to stop today or tomorrow. We will stop when the job is completed. Between now and whenever that day arrives when the job is completed, this is a 24/7 operation, day and night, because we know that we are looking for Texans and Americans, and we put them as our top priority, and we will find every one of them. Additionally, I want to let you know that overnight, there was an increase in storm damage and rainfall and flooding in other regions of the state of Texas that were in addition to the ones that were in the disaster declaration that I made yesterday. What I'm going to sign today is an expanded disaster declaration that adds the following counties to what I signed yesterday. This disaster declaration includes Bexar County, Burnett, Caldwell, Guadalupe, Travis, and Williamson counties. We will continue to add counties as needed, as conditions either worsen or improve in counties across the state of Texas. We will ensure that every asset and resource the state has is going to be made available to every county that's the subject of this disaster declaration. Also, I've had the opportunity to visit not just with Secretary Noem, but other officials in the Trump administration. We know that President Trump, he loves Texas for one. He's deeply concerned about all the families who've been affected, but also knows about the magnitude of the devastation that we're suffering. And so what I'm about to sign now is going to be the first step in a process. This document is a request for a federal disaster declaration coming from the governor to seek the immediate and ongoing help of the federal government. I want to express my gratitude in advance to President Trump for his entire administration for their devotion to the state of Texas. He always tells me about his love for the people of the state of Texas, his deep concern for them, and I know that he's feeling that now as much as he ever has. And there's no better way to show that than the fact that he wanted to ensure that he and his entire administration was represented here today by Secretary Kristi Noem, to whom I would like to turn things over at this time.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I want to thank Governor Abbott for his leadership, and know that President Trump is absolutely heartbroken by what has happened here in Texas, and the loss of life is absolutely devastating to him and Melania. This morning I talked with him several times, and he wanted to make sure that all of you know how much he loves Texas, how much he's grieving for your families that have lost someone, and the beautiful children that we're still looking for and hoping to return to their families, and that he is absolutely committed to using all the resources of the federal government to help unify families, rescue all those that were still missing, and return those who maybe we will recover back to their families as soon as possible, and that we will be here walking alongside each other and helping throughout this entire crisis. And know that I'm extremely grateful as well for the leadership of Nim Kidd, who's a fantastic emergency operations manager and has been well known throughout this country for leading through such a time as this. And this tragic situation is something that is unprecedented. We recognize that at the federal level. We also recognize that when something like this happens to a community, happens to a state, that the best responders are those locally, because it's your family members, it's your community members that are being impacted, and you can respond quickly. And the role of the state is to run and manage that emergency, but the federal government needs to be here for the support and extra resources on the ground as well. And that is what we are doing and what President Trump has dedicated to continue to do. I've visited with the president already about this federal disaster declaration that the governor was going to sign here this morning, and he has indicated that he will honor that and that he will accept that. So that response and that relief will be coming. And we also have had assets here on the ground since the beginning of this crisis started, since this weather event did start. And even before it came, we were alerted. We did have Coast Guard assets here that were helping to rescue people. We're thankful for the airframe that showed up and those coasties that were here walking alongside our DPS, and the emergency responders that were here, the Texas assets that were deployed already, and that coordination was seamless, and I appreciate them for putting that request in right away. We also had our BORTAC team from Customs and Border Protection out here helping with rescues. They are a specialized, trained force to come in these types of situations and bring their skill set to bear that is a resource that's incredibly important to the Department of Homeland Security, but also in these types of situations when we need emergency management response. We also did have a CBP advisory interdiction specialist here that was helping with some coordination of air assets that has been present. And then we are looking at the other entities that are under the department, what can be utilized. And of course, FEMA's standing at an enhanced level right now, which means that they are plugged in to the State Operations Center. We are engaged, and then as this response goes forward, that their role will continue to be filled as it always is in these situations and will be timely and responsive as to what the governor requests and what is needed here on the ground. I do know that the state of Texas is amazing in how it responds to disasters. Not every state is like that. Many states do not do what the people of Texas do. And you are an example to the nation of getting through these difficult times, but also know that you're not alone, that you have the entire country's hearts and are with you and are walking alongside you. And at the department, we will continue to bring more resources. We just, at the request of a previous conversation less than an hour ago, in visiting with him and with the governor, requested more fixed-wing aircraft from Coast Guard to come and help us, making sure that we're going out and locating individuals as fast as possible that we know are still missing, and that we also will send more airframe as far as helicopters that have the ability to come in, and some will be equipped, and the fixed wings with thermals so they can continue to work all night long. Some of the assets that other agencies may offer don't have that kind of equipment, but the Coast Guard does have it, and so that will be deployed so that the search and rescue efforts don't stop even when it does get dark at night. We'll continue to stay engaged, and I'll be here. I'm going to go up to the camp, Mystic, and I'm going to go around town and spend some time here today and make sure that when I am calling and talking to the president throughout the day that he has timely information and that the requests that are coming here from the leadership on the ground are met immediately, and that we can take care of these families and take care of these folks right away. We do know the #1 priority now is people, is making sure we're finding people as fast as possible and we're returning them to their families. And then also, you know, throughout the process, we'll get into what damage was done to public infrastructure, what may have been done to, I know we have 1,800 people that are still without power. What I understand is people still have water, but we do have damage to bridges and to roads. Thankfully, dams held. But all of that is an assessment that we'll continue to work with you on to make sure that you recover as quickly as possible. So, again, thank you all for being strong and being an example for people. Someone told me a long time ago, over 30 years ago, that to never get angry on behalf of yourself, get angry on behalf of the other people, to always go out and get up every day and go work for other people and help them. And so I know many of you that are out there responding and helping your neighbors had losses too. You're hurting because you're grieving somebody that may have been lost. We were created to serve people. God created us to serve each other, and now is a wonderful time to go find somebody you can help, somebody that you can take care of and get them through this process, and that will make us stronger and better into the future. So our prayers are with you. President Trump wants you to know that he and Melania are praying for you and love you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the governor.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the assets and resources you and the Trump administration are providing. One thing that Secretary Noem mentioned was the fact that recoveries and rescues are being made. And what has happened over the past 36 hours is really amazing. When you look at what the local officials have done, working in collaboration with multiple state agencies as well as our federal partners, in 36 hours, they have rescued or recovered more than 850 people, some clinging to trees to save their lives, others in other precarious situations. It's just sheer heroism, the way that we've seen our first responders rescue so many people. And now I would like to turn things over to Senator John Cornyn.
My thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem for responding so quickly to Governor Abbott's request for a federal disaster declaration and particularly, Madam Secretary, thank you. Is really important, and I think sends a very important message. Unfortunately, I've been to a number of disasters over the years across the state of Texas, as has the governor, and none of these get any easier. But I have to tell you, I remain incredibly impressed with Governor Abbott's leadership and the incredible work that the Texas Department of Emergency Management, under the leadership of Nim Kidd, do. They are literally the best in the nation. And what Secretary Noem said about other states not responding as well is true. It's something we should be very proud of and grateful for, particularly at a time like this. And then there are the men and women who are standing behind us here, who have been doing the work on the ground, not waiting for the federal government to show up. They've been getting the work done, as the governor pointed out. And we are all together, we are praying for those who have lost loved ones and are grieving. We are celebrating with those who have been reacquainted with and rejoined with their family members. And, you know, a few years ago, the governor will remember this, up in West Texas after a terrible disaster, a county commissioner there said something to me that I think is appropriate at a time like this. He said, being from Texas is not just about where you're from, it's who your family is. And so when things like this happen, we come together as a family, as Texans, in a way that I'm very proud of. But it's very important because this is who our family is, and we owe it to them. And I take the governor at his word that he and his team will be relentless in supporting all of the efforts at the local and the federal level until every last person is accounted for and those families are reunited with their loved ones. But Governor, thank you again for your leadership. Secretary Noem, it means a lot to us for you to be here. And we appreciate Governor Abbott and Chief Kidd, but we appreciate President Trump and you responding so quickly to the governor's request for disaster declaration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Congressman Chip Roy.
Thank you, Governor. Thanks all of you for being here. You know, before I was crazy enough to run for Congress, my family and I started a tradition of coming down to Kerrville for 4th of July. And we've been coming here every summer since my kids were little. They're now 14 and 15 to see Robert Earl and whoever else was playing. And pictures have been popping up my phone, the ones that, you know, kick on the anniversary of different shows, like a bunch of different shows over the last decade. It hits home. It really does. It hits personally for those of us for whom this is our community, our home. My family lives in Hays County, but we spend a lot of time in Kerr. And I can't say enough about the local leadership and what they've been doing in the face of this disaster. Your city manager has done an extraordinary job. Your sheriff has done an extraordinary job. I could go down the list of everybody and I'll leave somebody out. But I can't say enough about what they've done. And then I can't say enough about the governor and about NIM and about the leadership that has come from the state and from DPS and from TDEM to get this done and to do what we're in the process of still doing to react to this unfortunate circumstance. It's been professional and it's been extremely well done. And I have to say, the secretary yesterday, I reached out to her office. I think it might be 15 minutes later that I got a call from the secretary, immediately responding to requests. I talked to NIM about the need for Army Corps support and some other stuff, immediately talked to the secretary about it. The collaboration, the teamwork, local, state, and federal, I cannot overstate the extent to which everybody set aside turfs or any of those kinds of things to deliver for the people of Texas. Now, we're far from having finished the job. We're all here knowing that we still have work to do. We're still prayerful. We're still hopeful. Obviously, there's a lot here that we're dealing with, but I'm deeply appreciative for that coordination. And last point that I'll just make is, you know, and I've said this a little bit earlier this morning, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and a lot of second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking. And I just want to pick up on what I think the governor said about 800 50-something individuals that were moved quickly in this circumstance, and in a once-in-a-century flood where you get 12, 14 inches, where you get a 26 to 30-foot increase in water in the course of an hour and a half at 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning on a holiday. And that's what we're dealing with in these circumstances and where those camps are. There's a lot of people saying why and how, and I understand that. And I understand why parents would be asking those questions and all of the media. But where we are right now in terms of what we've done to be able to protect people, move them, get them out of the camps, and the heroic efforts of people that worked in those camps, directors of the camps, people who own the camps, who not just risked their lives, gave their lives to try to go save the lives of those kids. That's who they are as Texans. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud of the work that everyone's done to do that. And now we just got to finish the job and be with the people. And importantly, pray for the families who have lost their loved ones.
Thank you. Now, Kerr County Judge Kelly.
Yes, I think I'm the only one at this table that lives on the Guadalupe River. And our properties were devastated, and I barely got home yesterday. I started my morning ushering in a crew with a skid steer and 2 dump trailers, 3 trucks, 9 men to start trying to rebuild what went down the river. I then had the opportunity to come here where I was asked to go over to the funeral home. I had issues over there. I am a 50-year lawyer and a mediator and arbitrator, and we had some issues that needed attention. And I got to see firsthand many of the body bags, and it breaks my heart. And coming back from that, we had an opportunity to go on a helicopter ride with the senator and the mayor and inspect the devastation. We flew all the way up the South Fork, all the way to Criders. And you can see what's happened, and it's going to be a long time before we're ever going to be able to clean it up, much less rebuild it. But there's nothing on the other side of Criders. It's just hill country. And we didn't know. We know we get rains. We know the river rises. But nobody saw this coming. And what I really have to report to you is it was a godsend to be able to get out of the helicopter, walk back into this building, and sit down with these people and cooperate, arm in arm, hand in hand, to do the best we can to work the process. The rescue has gone as well as can be expected. It's getting time now for the recovery. And that's going to be a long, toilsome task for us. And what I would reiterate that I've heard others say is as long as we stay together, we'll get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Mayor Harry.
I want to start off by saying thank you on behalf of the city of Kerrville and our 25,000 citizens. I want to say thank you to the federal government, the state government, county government. You know, as I look around the room in the Emergency Operations Center, I don't see different agencies from the state, the federal, the county. I see one team working together. It's important for our community to know it's one team. We will rescue those in peril, and we will find those who are lost. I continue to ask everyone who sees this today to pray for Kerrville and Kerr County. We need your prayers. And thank God we have the help of the federal government and the state government in this horrible, horrible crisis. Thank God for our country, and thank God for all the help we are receiving today. Thank you.
Now, TDM Chief Nimkid.
Thank you, Governor. My heart breaks It's broken for those families that have lost their loved ones, and that fuels our drive to continue to search for them, and we will not stop until we find every one of them. I have to start by thanking our local first responders. Those men and women on the streets live here, they work here, their families are here, yet they got on the truck and they got in the car and they got in the ambulance and they went out and they did everything they could to save their neighbors. You also have volunteers all over this county that do the job for free, that were out there working to save lives, many times putting their own lives and their property at risk. Our state partners have been phenomenal, nothing short. Madam Secretary, your federal team has been nothing short of remarkable and impressive. I'm grateful for that. Every time I've reached out to you or your staff or Acting Administrator Richardson or the Acting Regional Administrator, I don't think the phone has rang twice before you've answered. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being here with us. Life safety continues to be our #1 priority. We will continue the search until all those that are missing are found. We will start cleanup and property damage assessments as soon as possible. Our teams from FEMA have been in the State Emergency Operations Center since before we started operating on this event. They are exactly where we need them to be, doing exactly what we need them to be doing. Our Border Patrol partners have been here, and I'm so grateful for the U.S. Coast Guard. Acting Administrator Richardson and Regional Administrator Stoller have been great partners to us. We continue to work forward. And if I may, I'd just like to run across a few more of the numbers. 1,331 state additional personnel that have been added to this response on top of all your local responders. Over 906 state assets here. That's 125 from our agency, 172 from the Urban Search and Rescue Team at Texas Task Force 1, over 160 from the Department of Public Safety, over 250 from the Texas Department of Transportation, 170 from the Texas Wildlife Department, Military Department 136, and the A&M Forest Service here with 115, and almost 190 people on the health and medical side. Governor, our team stands ready to assist this community.
Thank you very much. One last thing, and that is, there is a word that's been the most common word that's been spoken over the past 36 hours, and that is the word prayer. It's been repeated by the people who are watching this as we speak right now. It's repeated often on social media, through phone calls, through texts, and those prayers are answered in so many ways. Answered by that child who was being swept down the river and happened to find a tree to cling on and was able to continue with uncommon strength to be able to remain clinging to that tree until a helicopter was able to descend upon her and lift her out of that harrowing situation. It could have been the reason why water stopped rising into a home or a cabin or something that would have caused an entire building to float away. It could be the reason why there have been so many people who have been located wherever they were down the river basin. It could be something that prevented somebody from getting into the water to begin with. All we know is that prayer does work. Your prayers have made a difference. We ask for continued prayers as we continue our efforts to locate everybody who's been affected by this, and pray so much for the families who have lost a loved one, who are going through challenging times that they never imagined on the 3rd of July that something like this would happen. Prayer matters, and we thank God Almighty. God has blessed Texas and will continue to bless our great state. We'll take a few questions.
Have the numbers changed? 27 dead and 27 missing from Camp Mystic.
Sure.
What I can tell you is there's still 27 missing. We have recovered some additional bodies at this time. We're trying to identify at this time. What I can tell you, an update, there's 32 deceased. 18 of those are adults and 14 are children. 5 of the adults remain unidentified and 3 children remain unidentified. We are still working on that this time. As I said earlier this morning, the numbers are going to continue to change. They're going to continue to change till we're done. It's been a very good day as far as being out there and being able to do some things, and we've got a lot done.
Chief, early on there was a lot of conflicting information about the search, about the number of fatalities, the missing, even a lot of families and parents were rightfully concerned and more importantly confused about all this information. We just heard the judge refer to this as a shift from rescue to recovery. Can you clarify what that means? Are we talking about these missing people no longer
they're believed to be alive?
You'll need the judge to answer that piece. Our state assets and local partners are continuing to search for live victims.
Is there any indication that there are still people out there alive? Any evidence?
History would tell us that after a certain time period, those chances diminish, and we can talk about all of the numbers and the metrics on that. Our hope and prayer is that there are still people alive that are out there, and we are still actively searching for them, and we will continue. And listen, that will turn into recovery at some point, and none of us want to put a time period on that right now. But when you talk to the men and women that are up there in those helicopters and out in those boats and walking the ground, they're looking for live people right now and doing everything they can to continue this search as fast as possible.
And Judge, just a moment to clarify, because we want to be very clear with especially families and parents that are watching this. What makes you feel like this has gone from rescue to potential recovery? Because there is a difference.
We will eventually get to the recovery.
Two more questions.
Well, we're going to do more than two more questions. I want to say this. My instruction to every state agency involved in this is to assume everybody who is missing is alive, and there's a need for speed. Not just every hour, every minute counts, which is why there's people in the air, people in the water, people on the ground right now, because they're looking to save every last life, and we will not give up that effort.
Two more questions.
Why was the National Weather Service not pinging their phones before 7 o'clock the day of 4th of July? Either federal people can answer that maybe for us. I got updates at 7 o'clock, first one I heard. And I've heard updates throughout the week, but not before 7 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't that a fundamental failure of the federal government's responsibility to keep us safe?
Well, you know, my background is before I was in the secretary position here under the Trump administration, I was governor of South Dakota and served in Congress for 8 years before I was governor. And so I will tell you that for decades, for years, everybody knows that the weather is extremely difficult to predict, but also that the National Weather Service over the years at times has done well, and at times we have all wanted more time and more warning and more alerts and more notification. That is something, and one of the reasons that when President Trump took office, that he said he wanted to fix, and is currently upgrading the technology, and the National Weather Service has indicated that with that and NOAA that we needed to renew this ancient system that has been left in place with the federal government for many, many years, and that is the reforms that are ongoing there. The timeline that I have, I don't oversee the National Weather Service, that's not under my department, but the timeline that I did receive from them was that the notifications started to look at its expansion for its limited flood impacts area that started on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m. The flood watch was issued. Although it was moderate, it wasn't to the extremes that it was, that when the system came over the area that it stalled, it was much more water, much like I think we experienced during Harvey, the same type of system that was unpredictable in the way that it reacted and the way that it stopped right here and dumped unprecedented amounts of rain that caused a flooding event like this. They continue to elevate and up their notifications. You know, when your notification hit your phone, sir, I'm sorry, I can't speak to when that is, but I do carry your concerns back to the federal government and to President Trump, and we will do all we can to fix those kinds of things that may have felt like a failure to you and to your community members. But we know that everybody wants more warning time, and that's why we're working to upgrade the technologies that have been neglected by far too long to make sure that families have as much advanced notice as possible. But
one more question, folks.
Can you please speak to the search efforts and where that's happening and what the challenges are?
Question was search efforts.
Where it's happening, challenges, what it's looking like.
Yeah, the entire river is being searched from the northernmost impact all the way as we run down. You have assets in the air that are still doing searches, you have boats that are in the water doing searches, and you have ground crews doing searches. As the water recedes, new areas being uncovered and searched, and you have human and canine that are working those banks and will continue. It's a grid situation where we've got maps in there in the EOC where you can see what group is assigned to what area and reporting back to command if they find or if they continue to clear. And that process is going to keep going. We are not stopping until we find everyone that's missing.
Great, thank you, everyone. That's all we got time for.
Go ahead.
As far as the resources to recover, we have FEMA, we have the state. What can people depend on from the federal government and the state government in this time of need, and there's a lot of that.
Well, as in every emergency situation, the local emergency responders put together what the request is through the state, and the state coordinates all of the response and what assets may be necessary and makes a request to us. So now that the governor has already requested this federal disaster declaration, he will start to tell us what the needs are, and the federal government will do all that we can to support.
Ma'am, will there be direct assistance?
Well, there already has been direct assistance. I mean, when you look at having Coast Guard assets here on the ground, we just requested more assets to be here, Border Patrol here. If there's more individuals and federal law enforcement officers, if we need, any assets that I may have under my purview, I've made available to NIM, and so he knows that if he needs something, it'll be here.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks. All right, that is the end of the press conference with Governor Greg Abbott, with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Senator John Cornyn, and other state and federal leaders, with where we are right now with the disaster across Central Texas. Now, let's talk about Kerr County really quickly. We have updated numbers. 32 people confirmed dead in Kerr County in the flooding of the Guadalupe River. 18 of those are adults, and tragically, heartbreakingly, 14 of them are children. Remember, there were children from Camp Mystic who were swept away. They are searching for them, or they were searching for them. We still have 27 more who are missing, and I believe they mentioned they had recovered some, and we're still waiting to make identification, but not much more information than that on those who are still missing.
Yeah, we do know that Governor Abbott has signed a disaster declaration for Bexar, Burnett, Travis, Kerr, Williamson, Caldwell counties, and with the addition of potentially adding more counties as needed. Travis County Judge Andy Brown has also issued a disaster declaration for Travis County. This is to get that money and the resources as quickly as they can to where they are needed most. I think one of the big messages, if you missed some of that press conference, was everyone working together, and the fact that they are not going to stop until this job is done, meaning until everyone is found. Lots of resources. I think the TDEM chief said 906 state assets are being utilized right now to find all those unaccounted for, including canines as well.
Including canines. And remember, we've had this is like a multi-tiered disaster across Central Texas happening, as these folks in the press conference just said, across 36 hours. And we have seen the rain coming down unprecedented, or Avery's actually going to correct that, a lot of rain, shall we say, coming down over the last 36 hours, and flash floods across multiple bodies of water, multiple rivers. And Avery's here with actually the updated numbers. You were telling us that we've seen this before, but not necessarily within the same time frame.
Well, just within that press conference, the flash flood warning and flash flood emergency have been extended. Yeah, locally. So we got to talk about some of that, including just the incredible amount of water we have had to deal with and continue to have to push downstream somewhere. And unfortunately, it's going into roads and sometimes some homes. These numbers are just staggering, and they continue to climb live on air. Thankfully, not climbing over there in Kerr County, but locally, 20 inches in northwest Mason County, approaching 22 inches of rain in Burnett County. And most of that has fallen since midnight. These are 5-day totals, but most of this, more than 18 inches, has fallen since midnight. That is what has led to our own fatality tally, which is now up to 3 in Travis County. The situation continues, unfortunately. You can see the broad, prominent swirl, generally vaguely centered around the northeastern side of Williamson County. It's all happening so slowly at a snail's pace, but we continue to see heavy rain and additional flooding from Austin over towards the hill country. There's kind of a mess of warnings here. Let me kind of break it down for you. What's highlighted right now, that is the continuation of the earlier flash flood emergency. Remember, that was issued before sunrise when the very heavy rain was coming down, with the fatalities that occurred, but it's been extended because the flooding is still trying to work its way downstream, and there is still a lot of mess of washed out roads and bridges that make it almost impossible to move through this part of the hill country, including northwestern Travis County.
We've seen some new flood warnings issued over towards Llano County. Thankfully, the rain was there briefly and is now moving out as it gets farther away from that swirl of circulation. Here we go in Austin. This is not what I like to see. The flood warning has been extended here until 6 p.m. This is a flash flood warning, not a flash flood emergency. But we've been okay so far in the city of Austin. Our waterways have handled this water decently, but this additional rain is not going to help. We'll have to watch for a new rise on creeks and streams that all eventually empty into Lady Bird Lake, Lake Austin. There are a number of floodgates that remain open above Lake Travis and now even some below Lake Travis. Some of this water is having to be passed through Longhorn Dam down towards the lower side of the Colorado River. Some of this activity continues to wrap in from the north, all a part of this very slow circulation. And in case you missed the update, the flash flood watch in this very rich tropical atmosphere, which just does not want to lose its grip until at least tomorrow. We have this flash flood watch in effect for all but Milam County until 10 p.m. tonight. Odds are we've been getting some pretty good consistent signals from our data that after sunset and especially around or before midnight, some of the heaviest rain will be petering out. Still could see something in the overnight hours, but I think the worst of the flooding has already happened. Still could see some through this evening, especially around Austin. We haven't really seen any yet in this event, but hopefully we're on the better side of this thing.
Yeah, keep your phones on. Sorry for taking over your airways if you were watching golf, but this is such a catastrophic event that's impacting so much of the community that we want you all to stay safe and have the information you need to keep you and your family safe.
That's right. So make sure that if you, we will be keeping you up to date on CBSAustin.com. You can search the Central Texas Flash Flood Emergency. We will be pushing out on social media as well. And of course, we're going to be right back here in just a couple